Hillsborough County has launched its redesigned website, hcfl.gov. The new domain boasts a variety of improvements to searchability, page layout, navigation, and website speed. The revamped website features robust search functions, making it easier for users to find the information they need. Whether searching for essential government services, paying water bills, accessing event information, learning how to acquire a new trash can, or identifying evacuation zones, the enhanced search functionality ensures quick access to relevant content. HCFL.gov's new design features a clean, modern, and intuitive layout. The streamlined design enhances user-friendliness for easy navigation and access to important resources. Navigating the website is now more straightforward than ever. Users can seamlessly move between different sections, departments, and services while interacting with information and resources. Ready to see what all the fuss is about? Head to hcfl.gov and discover your best source for all things Hillsborough County.
These are the jobs you may not see every day, but just know we're working hard to make Hillsborough County a better place to live, work, and play. Subscribe to our YouTube page for more great county-related videos, only on HTV.
Hey, would you do me a favor? Grab your phone or smart device and open up that camera. Then point it right here at the QR code. Do you have it? I'll wait a second. When you see the link pop up on your screen, give it a tap. You ready? Boom! Welcome to the Hillsborough County official YouTube channel. We've got all sorts of videos here, all about what makes our community such an awesome place. From local events and community highlights to what's in their perfect Cuban sandwich. We've got it all. We're always adding new things, so while you're here, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you'll never miss a new video. Here's that QR code again, just in case you missed it. Go ahead and check it out. Ooh. This must have fallen out of that video. This really is the perfect Cuban sandwich.
All right, good morning. This is Mayor Jane Castor sitting in for our chair, Ken Hagan. So I would like to call to order the Hillsborough County Tourist Development Council quarterly meeting for February 8th at 10:30 this morning. So can I have a roll call?
Yes, ma'am. Good morning. Chair Hagan, Mayor Castor,
Here.
Antonaccio,
Here.
Collier,
Here.
Gonsmar Williams. Here. Kilton. Here. Mackinac. Present. Here. Manthe.
Here.
Morrison.
Here.
Placencia. Madam Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you. All right, has everybody had a chance to review the meeting minutes from our past quarterly meeting? Any discussion? Do I have a move for approval? Second? Second. All right, all in favor? Aye. All right, do we have any public comment? Seeing none, then we will get our administrative report from Ron Barton.
Thank you. Again, good morning. If you'll turn to the financial report section or look at the screen. So what you see here is a summary of the first quarter financials for the 3-cent portion of the tourist development tax. As all of you know, we have contracts with the various agencies that have been approved in our plan. So no surprise expenses. They're pro rata payments over a period of time, sometimes monthly, sometimes quarterly, depending on the agency. What you see here are the expenses in the middle column for the quarter. And so fairly standard at this point. And again, we'll talk a little bit about the collections and revenue, but we're fundamentally on budget at that point. If you turn to the second page, it's the 6 cent. And again, you'll see the same things. What you'll see down towards the bottom in that second column is that we go ahead and encumber the contribution and match with the city on the convention center. You see the $2 million. So we go ahead and book that as an encumbrance, even though we may pay it a little bit later. And then you see the other items, including the cultural and attraction based. Those are the matching grants that we provide for up to 1.5 million of improvements in the cultural facilities. It could be 500, could be $1 million, could be 1.5 million. We still have some. I think we still have 2 outstanding that we have not entered into contract with. So you'll see that number change some in the future. And as I've mentioned to you before, generally we just encumber those and show them the financials that way as well. If you'll turn to the next page, you'll see the collections. And so you have, for November, December, you see a decline over previous year. And I think Santiago will probably have it, I can't recall, but I think we're down even the next month by about 5%. So we're performing against Olympic and world records. So it's just not surprising to see that we're a little bit below. Nothing alarming, frankly, at this point. Again, we're comparing against record year before. So those percentages will be the same if you thumb through the 3 cent. Obviously, the percentages are the same, but you can see the dollar amounts associated with the 3 cent. And then the next page, you'll see the dollar amounts associated with the 6 cent itself. And then, as always, we provide you a graph, and so you can see, yes, there's some negative collection periods that we're experiencing, but again, still very high revenues compared to the last few years, and we'll continue to monitor it, but nothing alarming, frankly, on that front. That is it for the financial report, and I'd answer any questions.
All right, any questions, comments on financial? All right, good to go. And let the record reflect that Lou Placencia has joined the meeting. All right, next, we are, no pressure here, Santiago. We are on pace for probably a record meeting here, so depending on how long your presentation is, again, no pressure at all. We have the Tampa Bay Convention and Visitors Bureau report, quarterly report by Santiago Carrata.
Well, good morning, and thank you very much, and have a great day.
There you go. All right.
Is that fast enough? We could bring up the the presentation. Thank you all for your support. Thank you for this opportunity. I think I want to add a little bit of color to Ron's numbers for the first quarter of the fiscal. And there was a big negative number for, I believe it was November, right, or October, negative 16% on the spreadsheet. And with us, every little thing matters, right? Every little thing matters. So when we see a negative, we get very agitated in the office, and we want to figure out what happened. What happened? Why is there a negative like that? Because we don't see a lot of negatives around here. We haven't seen a lot of negatives around here in a long time. And when we looked at that particular month, the prior year, there was a storm that impacted the region that did not impact us to the severity that it impacted other areas. So we had a lot of people coming to our destination to stay in our hotel properties, and so we saw a humongous bounce. The other thing that we've found is that any one group can also make a difference. If you have a smaller group, or you have a group that maybe doesn't pay the higher hotel rate one year compared to, we had more groups this past year than we've ever had. We're still on track to bring in so many groups, but they're different groups. So depending on the group, the time of year, the rate, all of those things we have to work through when we're looking at why there's a difference, either a very high positive difference or a little bit of a negative difference. And quite honestly, and we'll talk about it a little bit further in the presentation, there's starting to be a normalization of travel, and the competition is fierce. A lot of destinations that are still not to pre-COVID levels are really hungry for tourist conventions, meetings, events. We're out there competing with them all the time. So we know the kind of dollars they're expending. We know how hard they're working because, quite honestly, it's been too many years since they've seen the economic impact of tourism the way it was in 19 before the pandemic. And, quite honestly, the cost of doing business has increased tremendously. I was sharing this morning with a couple of elected officials and even some aspiring elected officials that half of the world's population will have a chance to go to the voting polls this year, meaning that airtime, advertising will be at a premium when you think about how many individuals will be running for elected office that want to buy airtime, that want to buy ads, that want to buy billboards. So again, the price of business has increased and the competition level has increased. So I'm glad that Mr. Barton said there's nothing to panic about. January is looking a lot better than October, November, December look for us. Now, it's interesting, we're comparing ourselves to a year ago. Against the competition, we look really good. But against ourselves, now we're saying, oh, wait a minute, we're down -5, or we're only up +5, when we're used to seeing up 26, up 40. So there's a bit of getting back to reality that we're dealing with out there in the industry. So my presentation, if we could, am I moving it or is someone? Okay, here we go. So we're doing a look back at quarters 3 and 4. Ron gave you a taste of quarter 1, which we could obviously speak to as well. If you see, there was a little bit of effect on occupancy, but as you can see, and again, this is our last fiscal year, average daily rates, revenue per available room revenue were all up for the calendar year. The fiscal year, in fact, we broke records again, but not by 40%. But by 5%. So again, back to this normalization conversation. Next slide, please. The submarkets, and as you can see for quarters 3 and 4, downtown, West Shore, occupancy, all key performance indicators up. We saw a little bit of a drop out in East County and North Tampa Bush. We've had conversations with our sports commission folks because they affect business out in East County, up in North Tampa Bush. So we've had conversations. We've shared these numbers with them so that they're aware of the percentages that we've seen drop in occupancy because they do assist with business out in East County and up in North Tampa Bush. Next slide, please. Quarter 4 hotel taxable revenue, healthy little bump over last year. Again, you know, Ron mentioned Olympic world records and Guinness Book World Records. You know, we're still edging those world records, but again, not by the huge percentages that we've seen in the past. Next slide, please. And then obviously bed tax collections. I chuckled when I looked at this presentation because we used to be about 30 and 3 and it was 30 million in a whole year. And here we have 2 quarters hitting over $33 million. So again, really, really proud of that in light of how everyone's trying to bounce back. Next slide, please. So marketing, next, please. We're hitting most of the top markets thanks to your support and our BOCC support with the allocation. We've increased markets that we're hitting hard. If you don't see a top 10 market there, and there are some top 10 markets that are not there, they are markets that are out on the west coast of the United States, and the bang for our buck wouldn't be there if we were spending a lot of dollars marketing in those top markets over on the west coast of the U.S. So you see most of the relevant top 10 markets, and some not even in the top 10 that we believe there's a chance to drive visitation from. So you see there those markets. And then I believe the next slide excuse me, is an activation in New York City, a fleet of carvatized Uber vehicles wrapped in Tampa Bay advertising. So if we could roll that video, please. Yeah, ignore him. He's not part of our advertising. One of the cool things we're doing now is we're putting marketing materials on the rooftop of vehicles so you can see them from the high rises. And we're doing reflective vehicles now as well for evening driving around town. So that was a view of New York City, our relationship with Carvertise, and this is an activation in Atlanta that happened during quarter 3 and 4. Next slide, please. We had our most aggressive meeting and conventions marketing advertising campaign. You see that campaign running that ran from October 22nd and will be ran through June 23rd. East of Mississippi, a lot of impressions, a lot of click-throughs, a lot of overall impressions with some of our partners in the industry that market to conventions and meetings. Totally different kind of marketing and messaging. Next slide, please. When we look at the economic impact that was actualized, that occurred during quarter 3 and quarter 4, $120 million worth of business, 161 groups visiting the destination, and production is for future years that happened during quarter 3 and quarter 4. So another $275 million worth of production for future years. 357 groups signed during quarters 3 and 4. We're busy signing groups into the future, that's for sure. Next slide. And of course, this is the team out in the wild doing exactly that. Looking at merits. These are great third-party partners that we work with to drive conventions, meetings, and events to town. Next slide. Again, more of the same out on the road. ASAE, we're a huge partner. And then on multicultural business, another huge campaign targeting visitors through different mediums. So you'll see Ebony there, Onyx. We've done it through the Black Heritage Festival, using them as well. So Florida Carrier, we have a lot going on as far as multicultural business and driving that business here. Next slide. And here are some of those images from the 3rd and 4th quarter, signing Sigma Gamma Rho, having the Divine Nine in town, working really, really hard at getting some major groups and conventions here for future years. Next slide. And again, more regarding multicultural business development and partnering with lots of groups in town to drive business. Next slide. And as many of you know, some of you even participated in all our welcome campaigns, making sure that all visitors feel that they are welcome in Tampa, Hillsborough County. We've gone a long way towards developing toolkits for convention and meeting planners that may have concerns regarding legislation or messaging. So we work very, very closely with those groups that are looking to sign with us or have signed with us to ensure they understand what the current state of affairs is as far as legislation and laws and how it applies to groups that are coming from some other state, that don't understand Florida. So we've done a lot of work around inclusivity and social inclusion. Next slide. And here's some more of those images and some of the work we've done around that. Next slide. We've also worked with Travelability Wheel the World. We've developed an accessibility Riverwalk Pass. So when you talk about social inclusion, you're talking about a big old world. And that may also include individuals that may have obstacles to travel that we create. Not that they create, that we create. So we work hand in glove. And Chroma was our first colorblind vision goggles that we started using with some of our partners, Tampa Museum of Art. So if you have someone that has a difficulty with color blindness and they put on these glasses, they're able to enjoy that artwork like any of us would enjoy that artwork. So we partnered with that company as well. Next slide. And of course, the arts, big supporter of the arts. We're storytellers. We're big supporters of the culinary scene. In fact, we launched our second cookbook just a few weeks ago. We're making the rounds on local television with many of our local chefs. In fact, we did Toro Tampa Bay yesterday with a chef from the Columbia. We've had chefs from 7th and Grove. We've had chefs from Elevage. We've got chefs next week doing television with us. But the arts is something that we're also really, really working to talk about and drive visitation and help the artist community. So this is a short video that we produce supporting our art scene here.
We're always living with the result of what happened 100 years ago or 10 years ago. How do we put that in context? How do we connect it with what's happening today?
Art can transcend you to another world, and it can happen in a heartbeat.
As an artist, yeah, give me all that color, that's good.
Good culture, good art is the fabric of your community.
You learn to maybe understand the stranger sitting next to you more than you did before the show started.
If you tried to take advantage of everything that was happening in this community, you would probably never make it home to go to sleep.
Find some way to enter it, and it's like you're in a whole new club. You're in a whole new way of thinking. The world is brand new again.
Okay, so as many of you know, our agreements with the county are predicated on revenue projections, and they're done usually 2 years in advance, our agreements. If we have a very, very good year where revenues surpass projections and expectations under our agreement with Hillsborough County, there may be dollars eligible that we could create a scope of work for and get out there. And in light of some of the things I said, it's even more relevant this year than it has been in prior years because of the level of competition, the cost of goods, and going into a huge election year. So we've put together a scope of work that adds up to $6 million. That we believe is eligible for us to receive. This is a summary sheet, but I believe the next slide breaks down each area. So under advertising and paid media, you're looking at our largest campaigns covering both domestic and international markets. The international market side of things is critically important. We're going to be making some major announcements here shortly regarding interactions with some of these international destinations, which requires for us to invest. So again, advertising and paid media, over $4.2 million of the 6 will go directly out the door to handle that. And again, we believe we're going to need that money, not only because of the competition, but the cost of advertising and marketing this year, which is above and beyond what we've normally seen. Next slide, please. It speaks to concessions and incentives. we've got a lot of heavy lifts this year that go above and beyond what we've seen in prior years. We've got a doubling of requests from the Sports Commission for incentivizing their events. I think many of you know that whenever our Sports Commission, who lives with us, goes out and recruits an event, we go 50-50 on the incentives and the concessions to bring that event to Tampa. So Rob and his team have been busy. They've asked for double the concession incentive monies that we've given them in the past, which is a good thing. And then we've got some heavy lifts around some government conventions, which will bring a lot of exposure to the destination. We've got the National Association of Counties, so we're investing heavily in that. We've got the National League of Cities, and we probably have the biggest fraternal gathering that we have ever seen in Tampa, Hillsborough County, Florida, this year in the summer with the Omegas. So there will be quite a bit of investment, not only in whatever incentives are required, but in making sure that there is a welcoming environment, whether that's signage or lighting or events, that group feels that they made the right choice coming to us during a time where they might be questioned on their picking Florida. So anyway, we want to make sure that we're investing in that convention this summer. The next slide, I believe, speaks to out-of-market events. Our engagement with large organizations like PCMA, ASAE, Connect, we're showstoppers. We're on stage presenting keynote speakers. We have major booths. We're high-level sponsors at these conventions where there are a lot of decision makers that come that can decide whether to bring a group, a convention, a meeting to Tampa. So the fact that we are now one of the spotlights helps with landing some of that business at some of these conventions and conferences. Next slide, please. And then in-market events. Obviously, we still are doing a lot around inclusivity, social inclusion, but more importantly, when we're bringing convention groups to town, we just had a big group in town for Gasparilla, where we were signing contracts. You come to town and you experience that event, we're expecting you to reciprocate. And so we just had a big group in for Gasparilla. We do a lot around sporting events. You know, we have Savannah Bananas tonight. We've got, you know, Billy Joel Sting, whether it's a concert, whether it's a sporting event, whether it's an exclusive event like a Gasparilla. We're bringing in potential clients and getting them to sign some contracts. So again, we do a lot of spending in market as well. And I believe that's the last slide. Oh, I'm sorry, international representation. How could I forget? We've really expanded our international footprint. We've got agencies now in the UK, Brazil, Colombia, Germany, Eastern Europe, and Mexico. And Mexico will be very important here shortly. So we are really, really working to bring in those visitors that the airport is working on landing direct flights to come here. And so we got to make sure that their efforts are being supported by what we do as far as marketing with the airlines or marketing with our representation in those international markets. And I think, Mayor, that's the last one. Yes, it is.
All right, any questions? Lou?
Thank you, Mayor. Santiago, we're spending a lot of money internationally, more than $4.2 million, closer to $5 million. It doesn't help if we don't have the airline capacity, the seat capacity, bringing these people here, and don't have the visa capacity. Could you speak to both of those? And I also have a question regarding corporate marketing.
Yes, sir. So the visa waivers, the visa wait times, huge issue for the industry. U.S. Travel Association has been working on it day and night. We've got a number of issues around visas, right? We have work permits and visas, and then we have wait times on visas for people to come to the U.S. If you'll notice, a lot of that international representation, though, is to countries where we have direct flights, and visas are not a major issue, although visa wait times are becoming a major issue for everybody. But we target those countries where we have direct flights or we anticipate having a direct flight and we have the capacity. My issue sometimes is more on hotel capacity than it is on airline capacity, but it's well thought out, Lou, when we're talking to the airport on what markets, what airlines, and where to invest. We're also, again, very supportive of U.S. travel's endeavors around visas and work visas, et cetera, et cetera. So there's progress. There has been some progress. It's still not where anybody, I think, wants it to be, but there's been a lot of progress. And you and I can get offline on where the progress has been made because so many countries they've targeted to reduce the visa wait times. Again, we try to market right now to those countries where that isn't a major issue. So if you notice those countries there. Secondly, again, on airline capacity, I think we're doing the right thing when it comes to which countries we're investing in. We're not going to invest in the entire world if there are no direct flights or visa wait times are 450 days because you can't really plan strategically on when those folks are going to come or whether they're going to even come. If they're frustrated enough, they may not ever show up. So we like to put the money where we know there's going to be a return on that investment. And so, like I said, we've hired agencies now in all of these countries that are working with us on making sure that we're spending those advertising dollars in the right place to attract the right people.
I think it's important for the community to know that you're cooperating or co-oping with the airport, Hillsborough County Aviation Authority.
Yes, sir.
Joint marketing efforts.
Yes, it's not just marketing, but also incentivizing major airlines to come to the destination, to come to the airport. But that's just the cherry on top. The money is one thing, but then it's the sweat equity and our engagement with those airlines and the airport to make sure that those flights are successful. Because the last thing we want to do is have an airline pull out and say it just didn't work out for us because the load factors weren't there.
My second question revolves around corporate marketing. When you look at Palm Beach, for example, their tourism efforts were aimed aggressively at the corporate clientele, the corporate market, and as a result of that, they've had just a phenomenal 2 years in corporate relocations. Mm-hmm. So again, it's joint EDO, the Economic Development Organization, in the market with the tourism marketing. What are we doing to bring more corporate, in particular smaller corporate, that's not convention oriented, but call it in-house hotel meeting?
Well, you know, we work very, very well with our hotel industry and bringing those types of meetings and events here. You know, thanks to this body and the county and of course Ron, we started jointly marketing for the EDC so that some of those meetings and events that happen here may turn into corporate relocations or an office relocation. So our relationship with the EDC, with the county, with Ron's department, and with the industry on some of that small business, as you know, you also approved $1.5 million for corporate business transient. That campaign is right now in effect, and we're starting to see that drive some incremental business to us. So all of those things we're working on. You know, Mr. Placencia, we could be working on a million different angles to get visitors, conventions, meetings, and events here, and that's kind of what we do here because we do have a varied portfolio of opportunity. So we are doing that with our hotels. I mean, we've had some great groups in town that have come in that I've welcomed that I believe were brought to the destination by either Ron's team or Joe's team, and we go out and we make sure that we're visible with them, and if there's any support we can provide, we provide as far as servicing or amenities, whatever we can do.
I would just encourage you to consider placing some of these dollars into corporate marketing, medical marketing, and I'm not talking about medical tourism.
Right.
I'm talking about
sure.
medical meetings.
Yeah, it's interesting that you brought up medical meetings because when we were looking at, you know, again, spending, and this is not disparaging to any group, we were looking at one particular group where maybe rate wasn't where it was compared to that month the year prior, and my team said, well, because I asked a lot of questions, they said, well, that year we had trauma surgeons that month, and this year we had mathematicians. And there's a bit of a difference as far as spending and rates. And listen, I'm a mathematician. I love mathematicians, but you know, the pocketbook is the pocketbook. So again, when we look at differences in rate, differences in occupancy, we have to look at all those factors. And so yes, that we can certainly carve out some of those advertising dollars from that slide to continue to enhance. We're doing a lot on that side, more than we've ever done, Lou. When we go to PCMA or Maritz or any of these things, Tampa's big time now at these events.
Thank you, Santiago.
Thank you, sir.
Mayor, first I want to thank Santiago for his referencing a couple of times, the cost of doing business. I don't think we've done a good enough job of telling that part of our story. Every hotelier and business owner who's part of this council will all say that their cost of doing business has exploded, even with the acknowledgement of record numbers in terms of occupancy or revenue, et cetera. I'd love to suggest the following. At our next meeting, and Ron, hopefully we can pull this together, I'd love to have you, Santiago, speak to what your cost of doing business for ad placement in 2019 might have been versus today. I'd love to, the Hotel Association does a wage and benefits survey that includes not only Hillsborough, but also Pinellas. I'd be happy to volunteer a snapshot from 2019 versus 2023 or 2024 regarding the cost of doing business for those who participated. We know, and I'll just take one quick anecdote that's obvious to everyone. Minimum wage in 2019 is not minimum wage today. And everyone at this table who owns a business has had to make that adjustment. We don't talk about the cost of doing business sufficiently, so I think we've left the notion that the hoteliers and the businesses connected with this, with hospitality, are just hoarding profits, are just running to the bank and have all manner of deep pockets. And we don't talk enough about the challenges that every business that's on this dais faces when it comes to how in the world do you cover the spread when the costs, whether you talk food and beverage,
insurance costs, interest rates, property taxes.
We don't tell that story. So we've got some folks out there believing that we're just fat and happy. There's another story to be told, and I'd love for us to have it as part of our agenda for our next meeting, that discussion regarding the other side of the story.
And you know, we have a team, a great team of people that do all this work. I get to present it all to you, but there are folks back in the office, and when we talk about health insurance, and we talk about the rising cost of it, I mean, it's almost staggering. You know, we're not the county. We're not a big organization that has hundreds of employees where we can see some cost savings when it comes to benefits. We're a small shop that does a lot of great things, but the cost of insurance that we've had to face as well for our employees has been dramatically different this year than it has in past years. So we're seeing it across the board. We're not just seeing it in the actual expenditure of dollars out in markets. We're seeing it even at home when it comes to things like that.
I just got a quick question. I'm a big fan of the incentives, and you know, especially because a lot of those groups end up off-season that we're buying for you. We were talking about earlier before the meeting and the fierce competition that you're having, Santiago, with other cities, et cetera. Do we have enough gas in the tank between you and Rob in terms of some of these commissions and some of these incentives that we're paying?
Well, you know, it was a shocker when they submitted, you know, their budget to us this year, because it's like, oh, okay, you guys are working hard. That's good, because we're working hard too. And you know, when you balance it, I think that's why the $6 million this year is more urgent for me as the president and CEO to talk about, because of what we're seeing with the competition. And quite honestly, we're over a quarter into our new fiscal. So the timing on these dollars and having those dollars make an impact this year versus maybe those dollars making an impact next year. You know, our campaigns are seasonal, so we have a lot of front-end spending first quarter of the year because we're targeting the winter. You know, and we start even a little bit before the first quarter of the year to target the winter. If we're targeting summer, we should be targeting summer right now, because it's in these cycles. And so in order for the dollars, these true-up dollars, Joe, to help us this year, we're going to have to move rather quickly to get those allocated and out the door, because we're starting now to flow into the second quarter of the fiscal year. And again, we're going to monitor this very carefully. You know, all of you that have been around for a little while know that the summers were the interesting part of the year for us. What's going to happen in the summer? You know, are we going to do well? Are we not going to do well? Seems like we've left that behind, and now we're looking at October, November, December. What happens in October, November, December? Because it appears January through September, it's lights out. So what happens, during those holiday months that can be tricky? People might come to the destination, love coming here for Thanksgiving or Christmas, but maybe they're not staying in a hotel. They're staying with family. And they're not spending as much out at restaurants and doing the things they do because they're staying with family. So again, many of these dollars we need to invest to hit the right time of the year. So it's a great question. The Sports Commission and Visit Tampa Bay work hand in glove with a lot of these events that we're bringing and how we're incentivizing and how we're counting those room nights as well.
But we still have the framework so that if you got a piece of business for October, or Sports Commission does, even if it's not necessarily in the budget, if you had to, I don't lose piece of business because you need a couple $100,000 or something.
No, and we also have a contingency for that, Joe. I mean, we both like to put a little money aside in case one of those great opportunities comes that we don't want to lose. And so Rob will make a beeline to my office. I'll make a beeline to his office and say, oh, we have this opportunity. And I could mention a bunch of them where Rob has come and said, hey, we weren't planning on this, but hey, they're looking at us and they want to come here this year, next year. How do we make the incentive, the 50-50 work? And so the good thing about us living together is we can do that, like that.
That's great. Thanks.
Mayor, Mr. Follow-up to Joe's observation. One of the other things I'd love for us to talk about on our next agenda is the timing for the true-up. My concern is we now are at 6 million is the ask. We're now in February. I'm not sure when that's going to actually become available to you. So all of a sudden, the business we could have been able to maybe market and home, we're losing that opportunity because we don't have that transfer taking place. So although it will be a quarter from now, I'd love for us to talk through, Ron, how do we find a way to accelerate whatever the true-up happens to be, so it really can be put to use real time as opposed to sometime off in the future.
All right. Any other? I'd just like to say that I called Santiago. I went to Anna and I went to see the Lions play the Bucks. Didn't turn out the way I expected. And I think I did come out with permanent hearing loss. But the bright side was as I was driving along the interstate in freezing Detroit, there was a photo of, or a billboard of Tampa Bay with bikini-clad swimsuit individuals out on a
paddleboarding on the river.
So yeah, so that was wonderful. And then, as he knows as well, when we took a contingent to London, saw a lot of the rooftop advertising throughout the city there as well. So New York, right? So good things, getting the word out there. And then talking about the summer, sort of the slower time to be able to, the Kappas, that was just a huge success. And now I believe all of the Divine Nine are having at the very least a board meeting or some type
board
of
meeting, regional. I mean,
regional.
We can't do the conclave. I mean,
right.
the room at the center is just not enough. So we're working it out however we can. If the regional fits, we'll do a regional. If it's a local chapter. But Omegas, I'm being told, will make the Kappas look like a small group.
Right.
And
that's
why we're investing a lot of dollars. National Association of Counties, National League of Cities, those are great exposure moments, an opportunity for our local governments to brag to their colleagues about what a great place this is. So we want to make sure that we're incentivizing and investing in those as well.
And that is critically important. And that also puts on center stage not only the fact that we get to live in paradise, but also how well everyone works together. Rob Higgins, I've done a great deal with them to bring events to our community. And this past NCAA women's volleyball finals, Division I finals, sold out the fastest and was the largest crowd in history. And so those types of things put us on the world stage, and that's incredibly important. And looking at our economic portfolio as well, ensuring that we have the way to bring these different groups, that we're targeting what our airport the capacity that we have out there. We're not finishing up, but in the process of the International Airside D, which would have been completed had it not been for the pandemic. Being rated #1 airport in the nation doesn't hurt either, but it really is nice to see everyone coming together and working as one, and to see that in in action for Gasparilla too, to be up there in the convention center, expanded area, floor-to-ceiling windows to see that pirate ship come in. They were all like little kids being able to see that. And so those are the kind of things that we sometimes take for granted that really are such an attraction for not only tourism, but for businesses to move here and understand that this is just a great community to grow a business, to come and visit, to have a family, and to see the relationships that we have as a region is also wonderful. So thank you for all that you and your group do.
Thank you, Mayor. And I'm sorry, Bob, just to underscore that, you know, we interact with a lot of our colleagues, not only in the state, but throughout the country. And what we have here is very special. The relationship with private industry, the relationship with Plant City, Temple Terrace, the city of Tampa, Hillsborough County. There are lots of destinations that wish they had our relationships and how they function internally. So locally, regionally, we're very, very special and very, very different. And we need to stay that way. We're the model for other destinations as far as relationships and the way we get things done. They look to us because they don't enjoy those same types of relationships. I have a great amount of interaction with my colleagues and hear them tell me their stories of things that are happening to them locally, and it's not anywhere near what we experience here. So thank you, Mayor. I appreciate that.
Mayor, one quick note. We talk about the Divine Nine as shorthand, but we probably ought to give, for those who might be listening, an explanation as to who are the Divine Nine. Those are 9 historic, primarily African-American fraternities and sororities who are legendary for their summer-based business.
Understatement.
We were off the radar screen when it came to being able to even compete for that business until, and I give a lot of credit to Visit Tampa Bay and Santiago's team for understanding that we had a hole that could be filled, and that group of fraternities and sororities are the profile that we're looking for, are there to bring families, are college educated, so they're bringing corporate relationships as well. So it's been an interesting evolution, but just for those who may wonder, they keep saying Divine Nine, who's that? That's who that is.
Thank you.
Mayor, I'd like just to make one comment, kind of echo what Bob said. I would really like to urge the county to get this true up to Visit Tampa Bay as quick as they can, to kind of bring it into reality. You know, I've made, and our company has made, a multi-million-dollar investment in a new vessel. We have 90 employees starting next week for training. We open it in March, and we're counting on Visit Tampa Bay to market this destination to fill these hotels and bring visitors here. We make those investments based on the county providing this marketing dollars to Visit Tampa Bay to do that. So I'm a little disappointed that it hasn't happened already. We're 1 quarter into it, and I know it's spelled out in our contract. So hopefully we can get that into Visit Tampa Bay's hands sooner than later, because competition is fierce. We had a Visit Florida board meeting yesterday. Joe and I attended. And they're seeing it as well. So thank you.
No doubt. It is. The competition is fierce. And thanks, Troy, also for the new dinner cruise that you're bringing to our area. That's going to be just simply phenomenal. I can't wait for that. And while we're all patting ourselves on the back, we know we all have work to be done. But I have seen in my position as the mayor of Tampa, you know, we go off with the chamber to see other cities, and it is simply amazing the number of cities that are coming to Tampa in the Tampa Bay area for benchmarking. It really is remarkable, to the point that we have had 2 cities, major cities here in 1 week, where you're having to run back and forth. So I see that as an honor for us, a sign of our success. And also I'm on the board of the U.S. Conference of Mayors, and we're bringing that conference, summer conference, to Tampa in 2025. So exciting times. Tampa Convention Center is on course to have the best year ever. So that's exciting. I always loved when my kids would say, this is the best day ever. So if we can say this is going to be the best year ever, then we're in a good position. And I think the whole board echoes the expediting of the funding for your group. All right, do we have any other comments? Ron?
I think I'm on. I just wanted to thank all of you for turning out. Just remind you, statutorily, we have to have 4 meetings a year, so I'm always going to call on you at least 4 times. And so thank you for turning out, especially when we didn't necessarily have an agenda item that you needed to act on. But it's been a great conversation. We also have direction for the next meeting, and so I appreciate your attendance.
All right, thank you all. And since I'm in the acting, I'm going to grab the gavel. Meeting's adjourned.